Um, this is really a wild style panel. We can talk about everything because we just call it Accelerating Smart Green Startups, and basically that's what we all do. And he's a lucky cowboy because he has a temporary law monopoly on this in this conference. I think you are the only law firm here, right?
It's quite remarkable that none of my competitors turn up to your event, because we're delighted to have been involved in the last 3 years. It's been fantastic for us.
Yeah, and you
don't tell my competitors.
Yeah.
They're all at the fintech ones, it being London. 9/10 of every person at a fintech event is a lawyer. But here, yeah, we're the only one, which is fantastic.
Tell me, what is the secret of a good contract, and especially the secret of a good term sheet? Because you're teaching on term sheets, right?
That's right. So I teach term sheets actually to venture capitalists as well as to my clients. The secrets, well, I can go for a whole day on term sheets, but just remember one thing on term sheets, and the venture capitalists in the room, some of whom are my clients, will shoot me afterwards, but negotiate every word. If you negotiate every word of the term sheet, you don't have to negotiate every word of the long-form documents. So the term sheet is where very often the investors say, oh, it's all standard. We don't negotiate this line, we don't negotiate that. Well, they do. And so negotiate every line.
And negotiating a term sheet gets easier if you have more than one term sheet on the table, right?
So it's easy to say, especially I still use the word clean tech, because I've been doing clean tech deals for 15 years since the word was used, but in clean tech it's easy to say, yeah, get 3 term sheets. It's really easy to say that. A couple of years ago that was impossible, but there's one funder here I was just bumped into at lunch. They're on the other side of a deal, and I'm acting for the smaller company. It's going to become their portfolio company. There were 3 term sheets on the table. So you obviously, in terms of supply and demand, you get a better negotiation if there are 3 term sheets, but it's easier said than done. Yeah. Achieving that is pretty difficult to do, but at the moment, in these sectors, energy technology sectors, it is slightly less difficult than it was 2-3 years ago.
And sometimes if you have 3 term sheets, you may want to create an investor syndicate by bringing together not only 1, but 2 of them into the same deal. What
exactly.
kind of recommendation can you give here in terms of
exactly right.
bringing interests into a syndicate?
In other sectors, corporate VCs don't like investing with their competitors. In healthcare and media, they don't tend to club together. But in energy, they do, because oil companies, etc., energy companies, especially oil companies, they're used to, BP works with Shell. BP and Shell have just announced their digital blockchain platform. They're working together. BP and Shell, 2 of the biggest competitors in the world. Well, they co-invest. They do that in exploration and production, and that's the reason that they play well together. Yeah. And in this sector, getting a financial VC, a corporate VC, your existing shareholders to follow, which is one of the big tricks as well. Having a club deal like that leads to outstanding deals. Much better than having one investor who can impose terms and then ask for bad terms like exclusivity on exits, which is absolutely to be avoided.
David, you also have a temporary monopoly in this conference, being in the people mobility business, because he's moving people from company A to company B. Give us a pitch on your business. How do you do it, and why do you do it, and why is it so important to bring the best people to the best company that you can find on this planet?
Yeah, that's one of our purposes, really. Essentially, we're in the team. It's a small team, but we all have a passion for clean tech. I've been involved in the clean tech sector since 2007, not quite as early as well here. But essentially, it's touched on quite a few people today, presented around teams. Everything's around team. You can have a business plan, you can have the capital, you can have the product or the service, but if you don't have the right people to execute, you don't succeed as a business. So our business is exactly that, working with some of the best clean tech companies in the world to find the very best people to enable them to achieve the best for the possible growth of the sector as a whole. So in the early days, we worked with a lot of international business and the large guys like LG Chem and SMA, but in the last 18 months, we've worked with a lot of post-investment startups. really helping them to construct teams of people both in the UK, in Germany and elsewhere globally to enable. They have the money now, they have the business plan, they have the resource, but they need then to execute on a plan. It's not always easy to extract the very best people. Typically, they're very well looked after where they are. They're not guys on job boards looking for jobs. You need to approach them in the right way. You need to be credible in how you do that. And you need to take them on a journey from, it could be a very well-established business that they're with, to what could be high risk. Some of our companies and clients have huge investments like EVBox after the acquisition from 1G, but we're working at the moment for a company called Split, which is pre-revenue startup. So again, you're looking to take people from an established business to come to a pre-revenue startup. There's a lot of understanding that you need to have of the sector as a whole. And fortunately, like yourselves, there aren't that many people in the headhunting world that really focus purely on the clean energy sector and really have an understanding of how that works. And that's, I guess, our USP.
What is your experience? Do your clients value enough the value of the best people in their startups? Are people aware of the value that is actually related to bringing good people in?
Yeah, I think for our clients, otherwise there wouldn't be clients. I mean, we're not the cheapest firm in the world. We're competitive, but we always retain with our clients because our aim is about partnerships. It's not about filling one particular role. It's about establishing a relationship where we can fill senior roles and hopefully build teams around them and work with them in the long game. So it's essential for us that if we're taking people, we have a duty of care to our clients, they're paying our bill, but we have a duty of care to the people that we approach. And therefore, we need to know that if we're approaching somebody to join a startup or another organization, that is a sound move for them. So that duty of care is important. So for our clients, yes, they see the value in talent because they're engaging with us, they're retaining our services, and they have a specific plan. Sometimes it requires patience to find the very best people.
Who in the room who has a startup has already worked with a headhunter in the past to expand your team? Please raise your hand. And was it worthwhile to do it? Please raise your hand if it was worthwhile. For whom it didn't really was in any way valuable? Raise a hand with a bad experience. Okay, basically
a lot of our clients here. So we've worked with, it's good fun with the Ecosummit. We've worked with Zonnen, we've worked with EVBox, we've worked with Skeleton, we've worked with Origami, who we're speaking today. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah. Andrew, we did a small pre-party yesterday in your new co-working space, which looks to me quite empty. Yeah. It's a warehouse. It's a warehouse. And you do it in a special way because it's a temporary project. I use it now for the third time. I don't know why. It's only a coincidence. But because of the real estate prices here in the UK, this is really grassroots co-working development. How are you going to fill up this warehouse with smart green startups? What is your plan?
So the space we've got is a partnership with Land Securities, who are one of sort of the top three land owners and developers. I say this warehouse is scheduled to be turned into a sort of big glass office, 18-story office block at some point.
When you're gone, we're
gone.
Yeah.
So the intention of this is, say, we started with Bridges, which many people will have been to. This is the next stage for us to show that we can basically work with them. They're going to be co-locating their innovation lab there. And I think we see this as a kind of the next stage where we can demonstrate how we can bring the people together. We can create a sort of very central sort of destination for companies not only based in London, but also companies that are outside and need a sort of a base when they visit. So it's 10 minutes walk to the city as well. And I think the plan is to work with Land Securities to find potentially a permanent site. They've got, I think James said something like 26 million square feet of office space. So, we're hoping we can actually find a permanent home for the kind of sustainable workspace, again, to bring these companies together. And we go, I know a lot of the attention here, presentations are on sort of energy and sort of smart energy. We're already starting to move with the accelerator towards a sort of circular economy, starting to think about sort of food tech and stuff like that. So actually the broader definition is really where we're sort of bringing those startups.
And how big is the co-working space, and how many people do you want to have working there?
The new space is just over 200 sort of desks. We think the largest company is Winnow. They're going to be the anchor in sort of the managing food waste. They're about 30, 40 people at the moment. But we think we'll probably have sort of 20 to 25 companies, individual companies there as well, all in the space. So, as I say, we've sold about 60% of the capacity before we've even built it. So we're fairly confident. And again, if anybody's looking for space and wants to join that sort of community, then do talk to me or James afterwards.
Jan-Olaf, you are a really serial entrepreneur, right? How many companies did you found so far?
I started 7 companies. 3 are now public. 1 didn't work out. That was Think, the electric car company. We were a little bit too early. And the other ones are still going the right direction.
Why are you still doing it?
It's fun. It's interesting. I'm a typical engineer who, when I see a problem, I say, oh, there must be a solution, and then I can't sleep until I get some people around me. I don't run the company. I find great young people to do it, and then I sit there as the grandfather or whatever, the chairman. And that's sometimes important. In one case, we're just raising money for Moveabout, which is a car-sharing company, the first one with electric cars in the world. Has been going on for 9 years, nearly 10 years. But we had to adapt that. Suddenly we realized that we needed more technology. So it was my initiative then to say, let's find the best company to acquire. So we merged a software company into it, and suddenly it becomes a new company. And this idea of kind of following slightly from the distance what's happening and what is needed, and trying to have a network like this to see what are you really needing, I think that's very important. And
you are based in Norway, right?
We're based in Norway. We have offices, and the activities are in Norway, Germany, and Sweden. We have even a small office in the UK now. So we're trying to be as European as possible.
Yeah. What is so special about the Norwegian market? We heard a couple of good things when it comes to supporting electric mobility in Norway, but what makes this a special country except for the oil that you have around the corner?
Well, maybe not except because of the oil, because we had oil. We are a rather rich country. Somebody yesterday told me that why don't the Norwegians just invade England again, because the value of our petroleum fund is roughly the total depth of the UK. So we could nicely merge it together. I think that's 1,000 years too late. But the idea is that we have a good financial system. We have a government who is very coordinated with moving green. We have across all the parties an agreement to what we call the green shift. And that means in the car industry, in the transport sector, for the ships, everything is moving towards the vision that you have about everything becoming green and sustainable. And that helps. Plus, we're a small country, so everybody knows everybody. We know the minister. We talk openly about things.
You founded this car company, electric car company called Think.
Yep.
What went wrong and why?
Nothing went wrong, except that there was something called Lehman Brothers when we were just taking off, and we were planning on raising, I think it was $100 million, and everything was lined up. And suddenly we got a call and said, listen, we unfortunately are not allowed to invest because Lehman Brothers just went bankrupt, and the whole market froze for about 4 or 5 months. In that time, we found another investor. It was actually a Russian oligarch who then invested it, and then he wanted to have the company become Chinese and so on, and things disintegrated, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But its timing is everything. We had a very interesting joint project together with Elon Musk. They were developing the batteries for our first car. We launched a 7-seater, a kind of a SUV at the Geneva Auto Show. And there were 3 or 4 big companies which were very interesting in working for us. And then Lehman Brothers came.
You started off in renewable energy, right?
Yes.
REC Solar.
Yeah,
they made actually.
I was co-founder of REC, which was very nice because it was, until Tesla was the biggest success. It was $8 billion IPO. Then we went out, and then the Chinese came, and the value came a little bit 90% down. But anyway, we had a good time.
And now you are more focused on mobility.
Yes.
Lately. Is it more exciting than energy for you nowadays, or is it more of a problem?
The idea of Think was we had a very good battery competence. So we said, let's try really to develop that. we saw already the car was not a sale, it was a service. So we developed already there the think about London, think about Edinburgh, where projects we had. And then when I left, I said, can I take those projects and the team with me? And said, yes, but change the name from Think About to Move About. That's why we call it Move About. But we moved there from being a car sharing to today be mobility on demand. So we integrate the car sharing, ride sharing, B2B, peer-to-peer all together with a view what the company and the employee of the company needs. So we're very focused on B2B and serving the companies. And it's very interesting, we have now more and more activities in Germany where the energy companies said, I would like to add something to just selling electricity or selling charging stations. Can I white label your service and give a packages? And that's the business, what we call it, the B2B, the mobility on demand service.
Are you active as an angel investor too?
Yes.
Yeah? How big is your angel portfolio?
Oh, it's I think I've invested about $15 million totally over the last 10 years as angel.
Okay.
So small family business, you can say.
Do you want to do more angel investments, or did you have
Maybe.
have
My
enough?
wife said, listen, you should actually be retired now, and I have a vineyard in the south of France. She wants me to be an investor. I found a very interesting project there that you can have drones which go over the vineyards and analyze how the quality is and how the weather is. So maybe I retire and become a seed investor for a new company, who knows?
Neil, what comes to your mind when you think about accelerating startups? What is most important from your point of view?
Well, I mean, as well as the legal work that we do, which every law firm does, my law firm is 177 years old. And the startups that we worked with in those days were oil companies and railways and what have you. And we've worked with small companies to help them become big companies. And there's the legal work. But there's also, for us, events like this and multiplying our connections, using our connections. So, again, we're headquartered in Houston, Texas. And frankly, every oil company in the world is a client in somewhere around the world for us. We only cover energy and technology. And so our connections are helpful. And so, you know, the event that I was just last speaking at was an event that we hosted on electric vehicles, the impact of electric vehicles on the grid and infrastructure and energy markets. The next one after this in January on the 17th is another digital energy theme where our oil company clients, our energy clients, and our startup clients will all come together. So we're helping a little bit. We're not an accelerator, but we've got contact lists from 177 years in energy and technology. And that was on blockchain and the impact of blockchain on the energy markets. And so obviously slightly different of our clients will come to that, but that'll be in our office on the 17th of January. And you're all welcome, doesn't cost anything. But that's the type of thing that we do to help, at least. And then we work with everybody else to close those deals when it comes around to a term sheet.
David, what is your take on the question? What is important when it comes to making startups grow faster and become better as quickly as possible?
It's all about leadership and people. You know, you have to have leadership in the first place, and when you're building a team, you have to have the right leader to then build the teams around you. I think we all know that the cost of getting things wrong when things are so fast-paced in the sectors we work in, there is so much competitive environment. You pick the wrong leader, you pick the wrong senior people within the company, you have a world of problems that can kill your company. So for us, it's important that the founders are passionate and demonstrate leadership, but those critical early appointments also share that passion and can really lead from the front. And I think that's, again, it should be easy to spot leaders, it should be easy to find them, but again, it's human behavior is a strange thing, and I wouldn't say we're psychologists, but we spend a lot of time to try and make sure we get that aspect right. But from our point of view, if we can find the right people to really drive a business at its early stages, then we've played our part in their success.
There is an interesting topic. Sometimes people think about who should be the CEO of a startup. Should it be the founder? Is the founder or one of the founders, maybe it's a lady founder, we talked about it earlier today, is the founder smart enough to be on the learning curve and to grow with a startup? Or do you have to bring an outside CEO? Because sometimes this kind of idea that doesn't work out, as we
Yeah.
have seen many times. What is your experience in the ability of a learning CEO to grow
Yeah,
on the job?
we've been fortunate to work with some great leaders who have been either sort of very early stage or founders, but it's certainly an issue. And we worked a while ago with a fuel cell company. The founders were genius in terms of their knowledge and understanding and engineering, but in terms of business and commerciality, they weren't there. And in terms of attracting investors, they weren't the people that could pitch. They weren't the people that could attract. They weren't the people that could inspire confidence. So again, in that instance, you bring in a CEO for sure. So we've been fortunate to work with some great early founders or some people who have passion and ability. But definitely at some point in the growth, you know, it's almost like you have two teams. You have like American football, you have the team for certain skills. So you have a startup team, and as the company evolves, suddenly some of those roles are beyond the capabilities, and then you have to transition to different roles. So certainly I think there are many startups that would benefit from a CEO or somebody who could come in to present the better case.
On that issue, if I may, and because we've been through so many iterations, especially in this sector where it takes so much longer to get to exit than some of the other sectors, I mean, absent software, but and so we're increasingly putting in rolling appointments, even for founders on in their roles, and so at least it comes up automatically after 2 years or after 3 years. This happens on chairmen, especially. It happens with non-execs, but it also happens with founders. It's difficult for me to have that conversation because that person is my main client, but it's much better. And the majority of our clients that go all the way through to exit in this sector have changed the founder from being the CEO. And some people step down and some people have to be frog marched out of the room, which is very often my sad conversation that I have to have with my client, which is very awkward. But having those sort of rolling contracts that you have with every listed company, well, why not have that with private companies as well? And we're increasingly doing that in our with startup contracts as well.
Yeah, again, sometimes it's getting those founders to see that the company is the entity, and it's in their best interest to look after the best interest of the entity. It's not about them. And again, fortunately, we don't often work with too many people with egos, but you do come across startups. It's all about me, and not about the business. And clearly that's an issue. We tend to avoid working with those guys because it's very difficult to recruit people into that environment and have them stay there. I think if you can help a company to see that the entity is the important factor, you can play a part as best as you can, but at some point you might need to take a side step or a back step or disengage.
Andrew, you are almost doing a pivot very often. I think you incubated, you created your own ventures, you develop them with internal ideas, but now you do acceleration where you invest in external ideas. Are you running out of internal ideas, or do you think that's just an additional smart move in order to also work with other cool founders out there in the early stage in the UK market?
I think they're quite complementary. I think a little bit like you. I'm an engineer as well, and my wife keeps on saying, "Will you please stop starting businesses and going through that whole process?" We keep internally in the team, the kind of people we attract into the business are by the nature very entrepreneurial. They're spotting things, they're spotting opportunities as well. So we have sort of 2 or 3 projects that are sort of kicking around that we think should we focus our attention on that. The impetus for the accelerator was we were seeing a lot of companies in our network with some really, really exciting technologies and really, which we can't do. We don't have the patience or we haven't got the skill set to spend 3 years in the lab developing them. But we could see that what they really needed was the commercialization skills. So the investment fund is really just a way to sort of commercialize that side of things, and allows us to get a stake in a number of businesses that we can then develop as a cohort. And that's quite efficient from our side, but it also means we can maximise the value add. So the 3 bits of the business all do work together quite nicely. We've got one in car charging. That's I basically said to the guy, just do a bit of research on the thing, and the next thing I know, there's a prototype, and it's charging up cars, and we're thinking that's just too good to put in the cupboard. We need to sort of take it forward. So I'm going to have to apologise to my wife again.
And I think I agree with you also. At the beginning, when the idea is fresh, you need somebody who's enthusiastic, and that can be the gründer. But then he has to move away, and that's why I was the founder of the first AI company in Norway over 20 years ago. And shortly after a while, I realized this becomes so advanced, I need somebody else who can do it. And the same thing here, you have to find, when you step back, either you remain the chairman, as I am still in 2 companies, I'm on the board and try to look at it. Now we are raising money for our Moveabout, and the CFO of the company we acquired, the Swedish software company, is an excellent CFO. So I moved him, and he's now taking care of all that financial stuff much better than I can do.
Yeah. And I just sort of add that people start to think about sort of funding plans and funding rounds. They don't often think what capabilities am I going to need in 2 years' time if I hit these things, and start to identify people early and have conversations with people so that you're not sort of getting and saying, oh, I need a CTO, quick, go find me one because I need one tomorrow. And so I think a lot of it is sort of thinking ahead and sort of skating ahead to say what skills are going to be needed.
Okay, gentlemen, I think it's time for coffee.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.